Everyone uses AI to render perspectives and exteriors, but nobody is really talking about using AI to render sections. This section came out from a detailed 3D model, and the level of detail in that model is exactly what makes these work. Here's the thing, sections are one of the most undervalued drawings out there that architects use. But when you do it right, a section could become one of the most powerful tools to inform the design. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact process on how to set up this section rendering. The things you need to take into account when generating a 3D model and image for you to use, how I approach the prompting in Nano Banana Pro, and the post-production, I normally go from a technical drawing to SLI's rendering that you can use in this section. So here is like how, in this particular, how I approach it. Now, I understand not many people are able to get something like this. As far as sketching, this was a project that I worked that one of my clients gave me a sketch already of this elevation, but we still had to translate that into a 3D model. And this is the base of the 3D model. So the first thing to render, as I mentioned in the previous video, but a tool that I really recommend is Nano Banana Pro. And you can use Nano Banana Pro in many ways. You can use it in Google Studio AI, you can use it in Gemini, you can use it in Creo, you can use it in OpenArt like I'm using it, you can use it in Veras. So there's many ways that you can use Nano Banana Pro. The important thing is like you are using that model. The reason I like using OpenArt is just because it gives you the option to play with different models. But when it comes to rendering, I like to use Nano Banana Pro just because it keeps most of the structure intact. Also, it gives you the option to generate different outputs. You can use that in 4K, however you want to. Something to keep in mind is that whenever you bring that you're working on a model like this, when you have a 3D image that you want to bring, you want to make sure you want to bring it in a scale that Nano Banana Pro has already available. So for instance, if you know that you already print this in a 1/4 inch, whenever you bring that to Photoshop, you want to make sure that you have a 16:9 ratio. And by that, I mean this. And for instance, we have the model here. What I would recommend, you have a PDF, right, that you already know is the right scale. You can come here to File, go to New, and in here, 16:9 ratio, if you go to the web, you will see that this is already at that ratio. The 1920 by 1080 px pixels, that's already a ratio that is 16:9. So once you do that, whether it's vertical, you know, in this case, we're doing a section, I would like to do that vertical, but you can also use your horizontal and then bring that PDF in there or that JPEG in there and then scale it. Once you have the JPEG, then you bring that into here. And the reason why we do that is so whenever it's rendering and you already give it a ratio that it recognizes, it really keeps the structure, right? So for instance, if I start rendering on a 4:3 ratio, it might do something to the shape of the building, meaning it's probably going to render it the right way, but sometimes what it will do, it will like shrink the image. So for instance, one of the renderings I was doing some time ago, let's see if I can. So for instance, this one here is the right scale of an elevation, but I forgot one time to change the ratio here, and you see how it shrinks the building. Right, even though it's trying to keep the same structure, you see how it's shrinking the building instead of making it longer, which that was the main thing. So that's when I make sure, like if you want to be using something like Nano Banana Pro or things like that, regardless of where you're using it, you're trying to kind of give it a ratio that it understands. And generally the 16:9, it's something that it's generally speaking for vertical or horizontal is something it will understand. So that's something to keep in mind. Time out. If you're ready to elevate your practice and position your business at the forefront of architecture, you shouldn't be figuring out AI alone. Inside the Gaia Academy, you get direct access to cutting-edge workflows and a global network of forward-thinking architects mastering these tools together. To join us, just comment the word community below and I will send you the link straight to you, or click the link down in the description. All right, let's get back to the video. Okay, so something that I started with is you have this style here, which it will be the graphic style. Then from here, you will go into the 3D model. And what you would do is here's the prompt that I use. But what you can do is from here, it could just be very easy. You can just say add image 1 and say, sorry. use the graphic style of at image 1 and say render image 2 and keep all structure and elements intact, right? Now, from there, the great thing on these tools is that you can go ahead, make sure the ratio is correct, the 16. In this case, I need a 16 by 9, but I need the 16 by 9 vertical, right? So it respects that. Then you have the 2K, right? And then I'm going to give it like 4 tries, right? You can give it as many tries as you want to. Now I'm just going to give it 2 tries. And then from there, I will go ahead and polish the prompt, enhance the prompt. And that's the great trick about it, because whenever you start enhancing the prompt, but what it will start doing is it will start redefining what is that style in here, and it will start putting it in words rather than you having to struggle and having to spend 20 minutes or more just trying to figure out what's the style of this image. Rather, the AI will help you describe this along with the second image, of course. And then from there, you will go ahead and just generate the image. And here's where you will start rendering the image. So that's how you end up with something like this, right? Or in this case, I'm going to show you the examples. Not every time is going to give you the perfect samples, but here is like some examples we're going to give it. So you are going to have to give it a few tries, because there's some times where, for instance, this was great, but there's some other times where it will not start doing the right things. And sometimes it's a conversation with the AI, meaning like if it started doing things like this, it's just one thing could be that it's maybe not quite understanding what's going on this side of the building. So maybe that's something you need to clarify. For instance, this part here is doing that right, but then this part here is not doing it right. And a lot of the times because it's just trying to continue what's left, right? You see how there's a white space there? It's trying to continue that sometimes. So for instance, from here, I was able to get a few that I thought it did really well. I think this was one of them. I thought this was very good. Like it kept the same structure here. It did everything here that I wanted and everything here that I wanted. The only thing I need to do is crop this part here because it kind of finished it up. But if you crop this, you're pretty much set. So to me, it's like you have to give it a few tries. So don't get upset if you don't get it the first time. You might need to do a few iterations. You might need to get maybe 6 or 7 until you get the one that you really, really want. And then from there, while it's loading, I'll go ahead and go to Photoshop, and that's where I would finish it up, right? Like Photoshop, I would normally go here, set up masks, right? You can adjust the tones, right? And then from there, you just start stitching things together. In my case, I had that first sketch rendering that I show you, so I had to put that on top just to make sure that it was kind of what the client wanted, right? Like based on my rendering, but that's pretty much what the process was. So if I had to put this in a step-by-step of how to do this, I will say step number 1, get your base model done correctly. Now, it doesn't have to be fully detailed as you can see it here. It just has to be good enough for the AI to understand. So always think about it as like, okay, if the AI is going to see it, right? Once I place this in Nano Banana, what is it going to be able to understand as far as the line weights and things like that? Then second would be to get a reference image, would be this. So get a graphic style that you like, that you feel like, okay, this is kind of what I want to do. Hopefully you can get something. If it's a section, you can do a graphic style that maybe you can reference some sort of section or elevation. So it's not that different. So if you, for instance, give it like an aerial image and then you give it a section, it's going to fight it. So so second step would be to get a reference. And the third step would be the prompting, right? Like make sure that you can explain it correctly. A lot of times, whether you use Gemini or something like that, just make sure like the AI can help you describe the image, just because a lot of times the AI might not quite get what you're saying. Sometimes what I do all the time is help the AI describe the image for you so it understands it's coming directly from the AI. And also you can read it and see if it's actually coming through. The AI is actually able to understand the way you understand it. Once you have that, then you render it. Then I think the next step will be to create different ideations. Don't expect to have the rendering 100% at the first time. Make sure you ideate. Make sure you keep testing it and refining until you get a few of the renderings that you want. And then from there, you can either or just present that as something conceptual, or if you need more detail into these things, you can go to Photoshop and just do minor edits that will give you that final output, like the one in here. If this video helped you and you were able to get value out of this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And also, I'm building something for architects to be part of a community and being able to have all the resources for all architects to learn generative AI. So I'm gonna put a link on the description below to join the free community, and also make sure to support the channel by giving us a like and a subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.